Good afternoon, and we are ready to continue working with fractions and the area model of multiplication. So let's get to it. Okay, what we are learning, we're continuing to work with the area model when multiplying fractions, but this time we're going to be using two strategies. We looked at one of them yesterday, and we talked a little bit about the other strategy, but you'll see exactly what we're going to be doing in just a little bit more detail. Why are we learning this? Well, to be able to create a model for multiplying fractions will allow you to be able to develop a deeper understanding of multiplication when using fractions. Also, we've also talked about that fractions are an important life skill. So the better you understand fractions, the more successful you will be through life in dealing with math, particularly fractions. How will you know that you've learned this? Well, you will be able to multiply fractions by creating area models and then work together in collaborative groups to use these models to solve multiplication problems. And you will be working with groups a little bit later. So now, this is a thinking problem for you. Take a look at the two shapes that you see here and explain what you are seeing. How does this one compare to this one? And do these shapes have the same fractional value? And how do you know? Take 2 minutes to talk with your neighbor. So the substitute is going to stop the video here and time you for 2 minutes, and then we'll call on individuals to give your answers. So get ready. Remember, you're talking with the person next to you about these two shapes, and are they or do they have the same fractional value, and how do you know? Ready? Go. Okay, so some of the comments that no doubt you have made is this area here is where these two colors overlap. So this is showing 2 out of 6 or 2/6. And this is just showing two areas shaded in. And again, it's two shaded areas out of 6. So this fractional amount is also 2/6. So do these shapes have the same fractional value? Yes. How do you know? They each represent 2 out of 6 that are shaded. This is what I'm looking at with the top shape, this more of a tangerine color rather than the orange or the yellow. And this just has the peach color in these two over here. So I am most certain that you were all able to get this with no problem at all. So now we're looking at the area model with shading, and I want 1/3 times 1/2. So I'm looking at my labels here and going across this row, that's half, and here's the other half. So that's one way this shape can be divided. I can also divide it vertically into columns, and I have 1, 2, 3 columns. Now I'm looking at this rose colored and this light purple color, and I'm looking at a dark purple here. So I'm trying to take a look and see what does 1/3 times 1/2 represent. Well, all of this row here represents the 1/2, and all of this row here represents the 1/3. But where those two sections overlap is this purple, and that's your answer. 1/3 times 1/2 is 1/6. Okay, good deal. Now, the area model using numerators and denominators to determine the filled section. Again, I have 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, and 1/2 and 1/2. So what I'm looking for is 1/3 times 1/2. Notice that I have the numerator circled. This tells me how many squares of the 1/2 section I'm going to shade in. And I'm only going to shade in one. And this shows me how many sections of the 1/3 section I'm going to shade in. And I'm only going to shade in one. So the area model for 1/3 times 1/2 is 1/6. And that's what I have shaded in here, 1 out of 6. Now, let's take a look at these two. And again, this is shading in 2/3 and shading in 3/4. But it's the area where they overlap that is my answer. So I've got 1/3, 2/3 that are shaded in yellow. And then I've got 3/4 that are shaded in a light green, but where these two colors overlap, I have a different shade of green. And this represents my answer. 3/4 times 2/3 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 out of 12 shapes altogether. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, a total of 12 shapes. Notice this shape, or this section here, is not shaded in at all because it's not part of the 2/3 and it's not part of the 3/4. But this area, that's the different color, that is your answer of the overlap sections for 3/4 times 2/3. Now, let's look at the second way to model this. Again, I've got a 12 section shape and I'm looking at my thirds sections and I want to shade in 2 of the 2/3. So I've got 1 and I have 2. And then I want to shade in 3 of the 3/4. So I have 1, 2, 3. And I've got my 2/3 and I've got my 3/4. And altogether I have 6 out of 12. So if you're using the model where you're only going to share in the squares that are the sections that you're going to use, you look at your numerator and here are my fourths and I'm only going to shade in 3. 1, 2, 3. And I'm looking at my 2/3 and I'm only going to shade in 2. 1, 2. So that is another way that you can take a look at how you're going to shade in to get your answer of 6/12. Now, I'm going to have you take a look at these two. We have 2/5 and times 2/3. And this is going to be the shading with the overlapping colors under here. And this is going to be shading in only the parts that are going to reflect your answers. So I want you to talk with your partners and I want you to decide what this is going to look like under each of these and what you think your answers are going to be for 2/5 times 2/3. Take 2 minutes, pause the video here, and come back in 2 minutes. Okay, so let's take a look at the general shading. And again, I have 2/3, so I've shaded 1/3, I've shaded 2/3, and I have 2/5. So I've shaded 1/5, 2/5. And where this is a different color, I have a light green here, I have a light purple here, and I have a blue-green that I have shaded right over here. So 2/5 times 2/3, I should have 4/15 that is in the overlapping area. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my overlapping colors out of a total of 15. So this reveals my 4/15. Now let's see if I'm only shading in. Here are my thirds, and I'm shading in 2 of the 2/3. And here is my 2/5, and I'm shading in 2 of the 2/5. And now this is going to give me my answer that I need here. This is 2/5 times 2/3 is going to give me 4/15. And you get the same answer either way that you do it. Okay? Now, you're going to receive graph paper, and you're going to work in groups of 4. So you can reposition your seat so that you're in groups of 4. And you're going to be given a task card for using the area model for multiplication. And on your task card, you're going to have a total of 6 examples. And you're going to draw out the model to show both ways of finding your answer, using the overlapping method and using the numerators to help you decide how many of the squares you need to fill in. And you will be given 2 colored pencils. The colors are not going to matter. You are not going to get a choice of color. The substitute is just going to give you 2 colored pencils. So each person is going to get 2 colored pencils. And when you do the overlapping, you're going to shade in, say you have 2/5 times 2/3, you're going to shade in 2/3 completely, you're going to shade in 2/5, and the area where it overlaps is your answer. And then for the second shape, you're going to shade in just the part that you need for the 2/5 and the part that you need for the 2/3. And then you're going to continue for the number of items that you have on your card. And then the substitute is going to call different group members to come up and share your answers. Okay? So this is going to be the end of the video here. For the remainder of the period, you're working on drawing out your shapes on the graph paper and shading them in using both methods. Okay? The papers will be collected at the end, so make sure you have your names on them so that you can get credit for the work that you're doing. Good luck, and I will see you tomorrow.